Hi everyone, Greg Walsko here with today's installment of the Mount Juliet Library's Great American Film Tour. The library is pleased to provide for our patrons access to the American Film Institute's 100 Years, 100 Movies collection. Now in its 23rd year, AFI's 100 Greatest is a comprehensive look at the history of American cinema from the silent era into the 21st century. We conclude our tour of the AFI 100 Top 10 with movies 6 through 10, placing emphasis on the eternal movie-making question, gee, what if? Coming in at number 10, from 1939, the most seen film of all time. It's the MGM classic, The Wizard of Oz. Two great examples of the gee, what if occurred in casting a couple of critical roles. Vaudeville and radio comedian Ed Wynn was offered the role of the wizard, but turned it down, claiming it was too small of a role. W.C. Fields was actually hired after Wynn dropped out, but ultimately left the movie over pay issues. That made the way for character actor Frank Morgan, who was a real casting bargain. For one salary, Morgan played the wizard, Professor Marble, the Emerald City gatekeeper, the door guard, the driver of a horse of a different color carriage, and the projected image of the wizard. For The Witch of the West, producers wanted to cast screen beauty Gail Sondergaard, hoping to create a witch that was not only sly, but sophisticated and provocative. When the concept bombed with test audiences who insisted on the traditional ugly hag, yes, that is Gail Sondergaard, the demanded change motivated Gail's departure for creative differences, thus paving the way for Margaret Hamilton to play the defining role of her career. But Gail Sondergaard, well, she was ultimately vindicated for her career choice some 65 years later with the arrival of the sly, sophisticated, and very provocative Elphaba in Broadway's Wicked. Alfred Hitchcock's Paramount release from 1958, Vertigo, checks in at number 9. The film arrived to mixed response from moviegoers for several reasons, not the least of which was the casting of James Stewart, the lovable, warm-hearted James Stewart, as a deeply disturbed, obsessive ex-cop. Also contributing to the standoffishness was the age difference between the 49-year-old Stewart and his 24-year-old co-star, Kim Novak. And while Vertigo was in the inaugural Class of 25 for the Library of Congress National Film Registry, a very different film could have been inducted if the big gee what if for this movie had come to pass. Because the villain of the film seemingly got away with it, the ending was a problem for the censors of the time. Hitchcock was directed by the U.S. Production Code Administrator to film a coda, an alternate ending that would be tagged onto the film to infer that the villain was captured and returned to face the music. The Code Administrator had obviously not gone toe-to-toe with the future Sir Alfred before when it came to his craft and his movies. Hitchcock chucked the 2-minute-long sequence after he took one view of the rough cut in the context of the rest of the film and released the original version in spite of the Code Administrator's directive. Winner of 7 Academy Awards, including Best Picture and Best Director, 1993's Schindler's List is number 8 on the AFI Top 10. And the gee what if for this film is, gee, what if it had never been made? In 1950, Poldek Pfefferberg, a Polish-born Jew and one of the 880 names on Schindler's List, arrived in the United States with his wife, changed his name to Leo Page, settled in Beverly Hills, and opened a leather goods shop. For the next 30 years, Leo tried to interest the Hollywood elites who had visited his shop in the story of Oskar Schindler. He was about to give up when Australian novelist Thomas Keneally came by the shop one day in 1980. In Keneally, Leo found a willing and fascinated listener. Leo's story, plus his extensive records, including the original list itself, gave Keneally all the inspiration he needed to complete the award-winning Schindler's Ark in 1982. For the next 11 years, through an already existing relationship with the director's mother, Leo Page tried to convince Steven Spielberg to bring the Schindler story to the big screen. In his acceptance speech in 1994, when he received his award as Best Director, Spielberg thanked Poldek Pfefferberg, aka Leo Page, for carrying the story of Oskar Schindler to all of us. Before his death in 2001, Leo was quoted as saying, "Schindler gave me my life. I tried to give him immortality." Our next film was a virtual game of casting musical chairs. From 1962, produced by Sam Spiegel and directed by David Lean, it's Columbia Pictures' Lawrence of Arabia. Director Lean's first choice for the title role was Albert Finney, but 2 days into principal shooting, Finney departed, and to this day, no concrete reason was given. After considering a bevy of other named actors, Lean settled on Peter O'Toole, much to the chagrin of Spiegel. Spiegel thought the uncanny facial resemblance between Lawrence and O'Toole was exceptional, but felt that the height difference between the two men was insurmountable, with O'Toole standing a towering 6'2" compared to Lawrence at 5'5". And finally, the top gee what if of this film had to be the casting of the role of Sharif Ali. Sharif Ali was offered to German-born Horst Buchholz, French actors Alain Delon and Maurice Ronet, and Indian star Dilip Kumar. All of these actors passed on the opportunity, leading Lean to give the nod to playing Sharif Ali to Egyptian-born Omar Sharif. With 7 Academy Awards, including Best Picture, and a seemingly ever-changing cast, Lawrence of Arabia is number 7 in the AFI Top 10. Perhaps the greatest gee what if film of all time. From MGM and Selznick International, it's the 1939 Best Picture Oscar winner, Gone with the Wind, starring Clark Gable and Vivien Leigh. Or maybe not. When David O. Selznick optioned the movie rights of Margaret Mitchell's Tale in 1935, he knew that to protect the unheard of option price of $50,000, he had no room for error on casting. Mitchell favored star Miriam Hopkins as Scarlett O'Hara, a reasonable suggestion that Selznick rejected because he thought her too old to play the 18 to 20-year-old Scarlett. It was also rumored that Mitchell suggested Groucho Marx for Rhett Butler, at which point Selznick stopped asking the author for casting advice. For Selznick, Clark Gable was the foregone conclusion as Rhett Butler, while Leslie Howard and Olivia de Havilland were easy choices as Ashley and Melanie Wilkes. But the search for Scarlett became the stuff of movie legend. Selznick settled on his version of the final four when he narrowed his selection down to Jean Arthur, Joan Bennett, Paulette Goddard, and Vivien Leigh, who he met for the first time on December 10, 1938, at the filming of The Burning of Atlanta on the backlot of Selznick International Films. Both Goddard and Leigh screen tested in Technicolor on December 20. And while a virtual dead heat then existed between the two actresses, Selznick selected the woman he always referred to as his dark horse Scarlett, Vivien Leigh. Unfortunately for Paulette Goddard, it was probably her unconventional marriage and the accompanying unwanted publicity to screen legend Charlie Chaplin that tipped the scales in Vivien Leigh's favor. Well, that's a wrap for 6 through 10 in the American Film Institute's 100 Years, 100 Movies Top 10. These films, plus all the films in the AFI collection, are available at the Mount Juliet Library. Keep an eye out for future American Film Tour stops when we will explore epic features, classic westerns and mysteries, and the best of Hollywood's movie musicals. For the Mount Juliet Library, this is Greg Valsko asking, what are we going to watch tonight?